Hello, I'm Dan Ridsdale, head of TMT at Edison, and today I'm joined by David Richards, Chief Executive Officer of WANdisco. David, many thanks for joining me today. Looking at the progress over the course of the last year, we're in an environment where hybrid cloud, the migration to cloud are clearly two of the biggest structural themes within tech at the moment. And you've got partnerships with at least two of the largest players with Azure and AWS, and both of those relationships seem to be primed and ready to go. So things look very positive for you this year. But I guess with WANdisco we have been here before, if you like, and I'd just like your view on in terms of, what should investors look for? What gives us confidence that this will be the year where we see a significant inflection in growth?
Yeah, thanks, Dan, and good to see you again, albeit on Zoom. Yeah, as you rightly say, the company has fortified arrangements with both Azure and AWS, and these are not what we used to call in software Barney agreements. I love you, you love me, kind of things. These are highly strategic arrangements. So in the case of Azure, we're deeply embedded into their cloud as a native Azure service. So when you go into the portal of Azure, then you see WANdisco's technology as the data lake migration tooling. The same applies with AWS as well. We are their preferred solution for EMR, which is the Hadoop migrations into their cloud. So we're very, very, very well set. So the question is, okay, when's all this going to happen? When are you going to get thousands of customers and all of that stuff? And I completely understand those questions from investors, but let's just talk about the timing of this, right? So we went into something called public preview in the fourth quarter. What's been happening subsequent to that is a fairly large pipeline of deals is building up. And the way that it works, and we're going to talk about consumption probably later, but as companies turn on those products, they begin to migrate data from on-premises to the cloud. We're looking for on Azure 50 deals this year. We indicated in our results presentation that we have a pipeline of about 300 to 400 opportunities that have been growing exponentially since we launched the product in public preview. So they are very good metrics for us. So we're looking for a circa 1 in 4 conversion rate. So we're well ahead of the game in terms of those numbers. So instead of just talking about pie in the sky numbers empirically, so the way our pipeline math works is 4 opportunities, 2 meetings, 2 POCs, and 1 consumption customer. And that leads us to very comfortably to our numbers this year. So we're looking for 50 on Azure and 15 to 20 on AWS, and we have comfortable pipeline coverage there as well.
In the full year results, you talked quite a lot about the consumption-based model. Can you explain how that works and the implications of that towards the business?
Yeah, and I realize in the UK that there aren't many companies actually doing native cloud or pure cloud service applications. So what you tend to see is traditional subscription or perpetual licensing. So consumption, this is not an invention of WANdisco. This was actually brought around probably by Amazon Web Services when they first launched their cloud application. So many people, yes, the big disruption in cloud is a move to elastic infrastructure where I can borrow 2,000 to 3,000 CPUs for a short period of time and then collapse them again. That's very cost effective for very large machine learning, artificial intelligence applications. But there's also another change in the business model of companies like AWS, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure, Databricks, and Snowflake, who all license on a consumption basis. So what used to happen is, the Oracle sales rep would go in, they would do a 3-month POC. The customer would have to be dead certain that the product was going to work because, let's face it, only 50% of IT projects are ever successful, ever going to production. Only 30% of those are ever successful. So The risk is all borne with the customer. So that has now changed very clearly, because we now are in a situation where we're now consumption. So companies are paying for what they actually use, and that's what consumption pricing, what a consumption business model actually is. So as you buy storage over a period of time with AWS or Azure, you're paying trailing 30 days every month for the amount that you've consumed, the amount of compute that you've consumed. WANdisco licensing, we have to in exactly the same way. And this is much better, builds a much better, more predictable business model. You can see that from AWS and Azure. And you would expect to see us build up a cohort of customers over the next 12 months plus, where we can predictably give you the revenue numbers a year out, actually, because as we build up that cohort of customers that are all consuming at different rates that they're paying, and it means from a company's perspective, in traditional subscription, discounting can go to 50%. With consumption, there is no discounting because companies are paying for what they only use. And the good news for customers is if they don't like it, they just turn it off. So you have to have a turnkey solution that works very well in a cloud environment, and that's what we're doing.
And moving on, you signed a partnership deal with Snowflake earlier this year. Can you explain their role in the ecosystem and the significance of that deal for WANdisco strategically and financially?
Yeah, so we didn't just pull Snowflake out of the air. If you think about what's happening in the world of tech at the moment, you have the cloud vendors, AWS, Azure, Google, and a little bit of Alibaba as well in China. And then the applications that why companies going to the cloud, they're going there because they're moving their analytic data from on-premises to the cloud primarily. That's really the big, that's the fuel for massive cloud adoption. And the technologies that they need to go there for are for structured and unstructured data. So the new data warehouse is Snowflake, and Databricks is the unstructured data source that replaces Hadoop essentially in the cloud. So Snowflake was something that a lot of our customers need us to support in terms of moving data. They're a very large telecommunications company. Recently, they did a deal with us in Q4 for Azure, but also for AWS as well. Their chosen technologies, I think we showed in our slide deck, showed that they're getting rid of Teradata and Vertica, and they're moving that data to Snowflake. They're getting rid of Hadoop in large part and moving that to Databricks. So it's just obvious that that's what we have to support. So it's not that we're developing a pipeline, we already have a pipeline of deals already available. So we're jointly developing a plugin, as we are doing for Databricks, to support the data transformation, the last mile of data movement on premises, Hadoop primarily, to Snowflake in the cloud.
Great. And you've indicated that you'll release KPIs to enable investors to track your progress as your revenue ramps. Can you talk a little bit about the metrics that you've chosen, and also when do you expect to release them, and how frequently do you intend to update them, I guess?
So at the half-year point, we will be updating people on, there are three major components that we're looking at. So and these matched to our company strategy as well. So our sales team is heavily focused on new customer logos, and a new customer logo isn't somebody that just turns the product on for 5 minutes and says, actually, I didn't like it very much. It's somebody that's migrated at least 100 terabytes of data, and our sales team are actually heavily compensated to get them to move a lot more than that. We think the average is going to be 2 petabytes of data on an initial migration per customer. So the number of new logos, and then the notional monthly recurring revenue from those customers, and then the retention rate from a year ago, how many of those customers continue to use the product. So the attach rate to continue data movement, which we think is going to be elongated a period of time, because you don't just move the data to the cloud and say, okay, I'm done. That doesn't happen, because this is transactional data with systems and applications that all have to be lifted and shifted over to the cloud. And that's going to take, on average, I think 4 to 5 years just to do that. And then of course we're focused on multi-cloud, but they are in consumption, you need new logos and you need data being pushed through, in our case, through the product. And they're the metrics that we're very focused on as a company.
Great. And then finally, you stated earlier this year that you're planning a US listing. Can you explain the rationale for that, and also, what measures of business success would give you confidence in terms of the timing of that move?
The shareholder register actually is, if you look at the shareholder register and you look at the last fundraise that we did, it was driven from the United States. The company was founded in Silicon Valley. We are a classic Silicon Valley software company. Obviously, being British, I really appreciate UK investors and the UK market, and we're very supportive of that. So we talked about doing a dual listing, maintaining the UK listing, and also listing in the United States. Timing wise, we're in the midst of doing US GAAP conversion with our financials, and obviously banks and roadshows and investors and all that stuff. It's the key for the business is what I just described. Actually, it's building a cohort of consumption customers where we can see revenue out into the very far distant future. So that's very important. So this year we're very focused on building that reliable revenue engine for the company, so that we can ensure that we can guide investors correctly moving forward.
Perfect. Thanks very much. Very much look forward to seeing those metrics as they come through. And David, thanks for your time again, and speak soon.
Speak soon, Dan. Thanks, Ian.